Okay, I'm going to demonstrate how to work on this 7-speed trigger shifter from Shimano. However, the technique is the same for just about all trigger shifters, and I'll be using a regular number 2 Phillips screwdriver as well as a very small flat screwdriver, and you're going to need something like a squeeze bulb. However, an oil dispenser like this works as well. Or you can use an oil can like this. The magic sauce that you would want is kerosene, and as well as regular oil. This happens to be a mix of 1/2 kerosene and 1/2 of automatic transmission fluid, and that works pretty well. You can use a heavy SAE automotive motor oil too. Okay. So let's get going. I'm working inside of a chafing dish. I have a small container to put the small parts in, and when working on this, there's a shoulder screw here, and you can do this normally on the bike. And so I rotate the handlebars so that the mechanism is facing upwards, and then to take this off you typically can't, so you would need to cut the derailleur cable and carefully unscrew this. Now be careful, there's a spring inside here, and so you want to make sure you hold on to this. Try to keep this in an orientation so that you don't lose the parts. Once that is off, you can very carefully finesse this off. If you find that you have to work this, be very careful, because chances are you're going to break it and spare parts are not available for this. This is where having a small screwdriver comes in handy, and you're typically going to want to try moving this to see what's up. And what happens is you have here a post followed by a spring and then a gear pawl, and this has a grease in it that over time evaporates, and so it becomes very stiff and the mechanism won't close, it stays open. And so this is where, if you have some kerosene, then you would use an eyedropper and squirt it on this mechanism here, right? And then you would need to work this back and forth until it's clear, right? And so you keep adding the solvent and you keep wiggling this until the spring back is instantaneous. And this has been cleaned, so it has good action. There may be between 2 and 3 of these pawls located around, but it may be difficult to find. Okay, and so you just need to look around, and you can mechanically, physically move some of these. This one happens to be broken because there's a pin inside that's sheared off. All right, but you should be able to move it from one direction to the next. Okay, that is going from high to low. Once you have that, then putting some lubricant in the axle itself here and here is fine. Just make sure that you don't have this too tight or too loose, and you don't need to remove this, which takes out the whole pod. Okay, once that's done, you're good to go. You notice I'm not using WD-40 because over time WD-40 solidifies, and so once I have this taken care of, I'll dry it with a paper towel, and then I'll put in some oil, like SAE weight, 30 weight or higher. Hypo gear oil works, but it smells, so I stopped using that. But maybe the newer versions have a lower sulfur content. Once that's done, you can dry it up and put it back together again. You don't want this filled up with oil because it's going to tend to drain out. And if you have a display indicator window, then you're going to need to be very careful, because you don't want the solvent to go into that also. That'll really make things look unsightly. Okay, so you screw this back in again. You might need to put some Loctite or an adhesive to keep the screw from coming out. And of course you're going to need to replace the shifter cable as well. Okay. Bike shops typically won't do this because it's a time and effort issue, and so it is more cost effective for them to replace the shifter and the brake mechanism as one unit. But since your hourly rate is much lower, then you can afford to spend the time to fix these and bring these back into shape. And it works really well, and it's part of what you do as preservation on a bike. So with that, we're done with this video, and go out and ride your bike.